Right, so this is a new series that I'm starting. This is a pain-free performance training series, and this is just basically where I'm gonna take you through my own workouts and show you how I program my workouts around nagging aches and pains. So things like shoulder pain, low back pain, knee pain. So, I do a lot of tutorials on this channel, and I've done this for years, where I explain things and how to get out of pain and how to deal with them. And I thought that this might be a good insight into how I actually put workouts together, and it'll give you something that you can kind of do along with me as well. So today, this is gonna be a shoulder pain kind of focused day. So this is how I would program a training session or workouts around shoulder pain, specifically with overhead type movements. So if you have any kind of overhead shoulder pain, impingement, pinching, if you have just restrictions on your mobility when you reach overhead, limitations and things like that, that aren't getting any better. You've tried stretching, you've tried physical therapy type exercises, massage, you've tried foam rolling, you've tried pain medications, or maybe cortisone shots, maybe you've had surgery, maybe you're just chronically stiff and tight and you just can't seem to get full pain-free movement back, or your strength, you're weaker in that shoulder or that arm compared to the other one, and you're just trying to get things feeling better and moving better. So that's what I'm gonna share here today. So things that you might need. So just ahead of time, you can pause this video. I'm gonna be doing some work with body weight, obviously, resistance bands. I'm gonna show some things with like a TRX, suspension straps. I'll show things with like dumbbells, a landmine. And I'm just trying to give a variety of different tools and implements that you can use as well. So, if you have a garage gym, you might have some or all of these, or maybe if you're working at or you work out at a regular gym, you might have access to more of these things. So I'm doing the best I can to try to make this accommodate as many people as possible. So that being said, let's get to it. So first things first, before I begin any type of a workout, whether it's my own or if it's a client who comes to me complaining of shoulder pain, I want to see what's happening. So we start with just a basic kind of movement assessment. And the reason why this is important is because you want to know your baseline. Where are you starting at today? And where you are starting today might not be the same place that you're starting a week from today. So it could change day to day. So we always want to begin with a baseline movement assessment. 3 areas when we talk about shoulder pain that I am looking for. So I'm looking for the ball and socket, right? The glenohumeral joint here. So all we're going to do with there is just kind of assess yourself here. So we're standing at like a 90-90, right? And you want to assess external rotation. So if we start from here, hands are kind of here. And you're just looking at how much range do I have when I take my hands from here and I move them to here. So we're looking for a good 90 degrees or hands about level with the ears. We're making sure you're not bending and breaking the wrist or arching the low back to get it. So it should just be a smooth movement, and you want to assess right side and left side. So I like to do them together, just move them, see, how does it feel? Do you feel any restrictions, limitations, pain? Pain is always a red flag, and that's something that we do not just want to push through, okay? We're trying to find pain-free ranges of motion, because pain is the thing that will decrease mobility, it will limit it even more, it will decrease strength, and it will just crush what you're trying to do to get your shoulder functioning and get it back healthy again. Okay, so that's the first assessment. Second one we're gonna do is we're gonna assess how the shoulder blade or the scapula moves. This bone, this triangle bone that's on your upper back, has to be moving well for the shoulder to move well. So just a straight basic assessment is reaching arms up overhead. And again, can you get your arms all the way up to where your bicep is about parallel with your ear on both sides? Can you do that without arching the low back to get it? So I shouldn't be arching back here to get it, okay? And what we're looking for here is you don't have to get perfectly overhead. If you have it to where you're, maybe right about into here, right about there or here. Pretty good. Now, if you're not there, get to where you can. And again, don't force a movement. We never want to force feed a movement that doesn't feel like it's naturally happening there. So just know where you're at and just kind of take stock of where that is, right? Make sure that you understand where your mobility is at today on both right and left sides, okay? And then the last thing we're doing is we are going to look at the thoracic spine, so basically between your neck and your lower back, that area of the spine, and how well does it move? So I'm going to show you a simple way that we can just kind of assess this, and we're going to actually use this as part of a warm-up. So this is just a quadruped, so it means that we're going to put our hands under the shoulders, knees are right under the hips, and we're going to work through with just kind of a elbow goes toward the arm, and then you're going to turn your body and rotate the other way. So we're just kind of working from here to here, just like this. Okay, make sure that you're not hyperextending your lower back to get the range of motion. And again, what you're doing is you're just doing about 10 repetitions and kind of feel the range out, right? What does it feel like? Is it very difficult for you to move? Do you get stuck somewhere in here and you can't really move, right? We don't want to just pull the elbow back and move. We want to move with the whole trunk, okay? So we're turning the whole body, right? Chest turning as well, head turning as well. A lot of times what will happen is you might have a difference right side versus left side. So like for me, my left side doesn't move usually as well as my right. I've done a lot of work on it because my thoracic spine is very stuck. And sometimes I come in on days like today, it's moving a lot better. And some days it just doesn't move at all. So sometimes I have to do some extra work on that. So again, assess where you're at right sides versus left sides. And just, again, we're just taking stock. We're not trying to fix anything right now. We're not trying to do any kind of therapy sessions here. We're just assessing where our mobility is for the day. So now you got your 3 assessments done. We're gonna jump into the workout. Right, a quick word before we go and jump into the workout. Make sure that you spend a little bit of time doing a thorough warm-up. So before I jump into any workout, I go through a 6-phase warm-up where it is designed to rebuild mobility, make sure that I've got good, healthy, pain-free movement going on. And it sets the stage for correcting any kind of weak links in my movement pattern. So I'm cleaning up movement. I'm making sure that I'm targeting and activating the right muscles the key muscle groups that I'm working on for the day. I'm building the foundation. So I have like a main lift that I'm doing, and I'm making sure that I'm developing that lift as well. And then I'll spend some time just kind of peaking myself by ramping up my nervous system so that I'm ready to go for the workout. Like everything is just kind of peaked and ready to move and perform really well. So make sure you get a thorough warm-up done. If that's something that you would like to see, then just mention in the comments below and I can do a future video and take you through my warm-up that I do. Okay, so I like to start off each training session with a primer. So today, this is going to be more of a kind of a neurological primer. So this is just, again, building off of the end of the warm-up. We're trying to really ramp the nervous system up so that we can make the main part of the workout even more efficient. So this is more like preparing myself for the main lift that is to come. So what I'm trying to do is I'm not trying to lift anything heavy. I'm trying to do a lighter load, and I'm trying to move that load as fast as possible, but again, keeping good control of it and making sure that the movement is pain-free. So this one is just going to be a jerk, which is just a quick explosive press overhead with a catch at the top and bringing it back down. Repetitions are only going to be 3 on each side, and so again, move with intention, move with speed, but move with control as well. that's an overhead movement. Now again, this is programming around shoulder pain, particularly if you have impingement or restriction issues with overhead movement. Again, you don't want to force feed anything up overhead. Earlier you did an overhead arm reach assessment. So if you cannot get your arms to somewhere between at least, maybe 70 to 90 degrees overhead, you don't want to be lifting a dumbbell overhead or doing straight overhead lifts. So I'm going to show you a couple of alternative exercises you can do and use these as a starting point instead. So our entry point is actually, instead of doing a straight overhead movement, we're going to use a landmine. And so a landmine is going to allow us to use a modified overhead range, something a little more out in front, in between a horizontal and an overhead, right? So if you can't get up there, that's fine. We can use a landmine to get up over there. And so we can do this exercise instead with a landmine. So from here to here. All right, so that's your landmine version. Now again, if that's a little bit too much, maybe you just don't feel comfortable with that. Maybe that's still a little bit too much. You don't have that kind of range. You can modify a little bit with a landmine depending on where you position your feet. So the more that you stand under or closer to the anchor point, the more overhead the lift is going to be. The further back you get, the more out in front you're going to be. Sometimes though, you might not have access to a landmine. So if that's the case, then we could just stack up and use a resistance band instead. Okay, so I know I said a resistance band. You can use a band or you can use a cable stack machine. So if you have a gym, almost all gyms are going to have some kind of a cable stack. Put a pin in the cable, use a handle attachment. If you have a band, that's fine too. And so all we're doing is now, instead of going up overhead, we're just going to work. I put the attachment, so you want to set the cable stack at a low level, or your band, you want to attach it down at a low level. And so we're going to work a little bit in an upward direction. It doesn't have to be up here, right? But it's not going to be straight in front. It's just going to be somewhere a little bit out into here. So again, you can work on a push here. You can put it a little more out in front if you need, wherever your range of motion is. And remember, the goal is full range of motion. So we don't want to be doing modified short movements. We want to be able to get that shoulder back without pain and punch it out, okay? So wherever that is for you, that's where you want to go. And again, only 3 reps per side. And during rest periods in between sets, power coffee. Coffee with protein powder and a splash of oat milk. Absolutely delicious recovery fuel. Okay, so now we're coming off of our neurological primer, and now we're ready for the main lift of the day. So my main lift here is doing pull-ups. So I'm going to do a set of 3 repetitions on pull-ups. Now again, this is something that you have to assess for yourself. If you've got shoulder pain and it irritates you to do overhead movements, and remember, if your overhead assessment, you weren't able to get at least 70 degrees, between 70 and 90, here to here, somewhere in that range, we don't want to be force feeding pull-ups onto our bodies, because it's going to do more harm than good and probably irritate the shoulder. So instead of doing that, I'm going to show how we set the pull-up up, and then I'm going to show you a couple alternatives that you can use just in case you're not able to do the pull-ups. So I don't have a full pull-up bar here where I can just have it like jump up on it. So I'm doing a modified version, and the way that I'm going to set this up, I'm just going to get my hands, I'm going to get right under the bar. I get my hands into a comfortable position. I'm not going wider than my shoulders. I'm not going narrower than my shoulders. I'm going about shoulder width apart. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to brace my body. So I'm going to make sure that I've got tension in my lats. I'm going to pre-tense my lats. So almost like if I was putting an orange in between my armpit and squeezing it with my arms straight, I'm going to make sure that I'm putting that tension in there. All right, because this is what we call having strength at length. This right here is the weakest part of a movement, and it's the part where the shoulder could be most vulnerable. So I want to make sure that we put that pre-tension in there through the lats. That's going to help increase the activation of the lats and ease up the stress on the shoulder. I'm also going to brace my abdominals. Make sure that I've got a nice bracing in there. So once I get that, now I'm going to pull up. So what I'm trying to make sure is that when I pull up, I don't want to overarch and hyperextend my back to get there. I want to make sure that I've got good control over the movement. The movement should be pretty smooth. I should have turned my hat backwards so I don't bang my head up on this thing. But that's kind of the things that we're looking for. We're looking for the movement to be full range, pain-free, to have good control. That's what I call owning the movement. We don't want it to be sloppy. We don't want it to feel like it's being done in segments or choppy. It's not smooth. It's a real struggle or just doesn't feel right. So, these are the things that we're trying to do to own the movement. Okay, so alternative exercises. If you're not able to do the pull-ups, they cause pain, or it's just you don't have access to it or it doesn't feel right. So the next one would be a lat pull down. So you can do a seated lat pull down. Almost every gym has one of those. And still, if that overhead movement bothers you, because you can modify the lat pull down a little bit where it's a little more out in front of you, not directly overhead, but it's a little bit limited. You don't want to be leaning way back when you're doing it and hyperextending your back. So again, if that's a problem, then you can go to a high angle row. So get a cable stack machine either at the gym, or you can hook up a resistance band, and you just want to have it at a high angle. And then you can do like a half kneeling. I don't know if I'm getting in the camera here, but where we're pulling from a high angle down here to here. And you can modify this range so the closer you get to the anchor point, the more overhead the movement's going to be. You can scale it to match where the range of motion feels good on your shoulder by backing up a little bit further as well. And then in between sets, so when you finish either the pull-up, the lat pull-down, or the high angle row, while you're resting, we're just going to do some light mobility work. So we want to just make sure if we're working on pulling, we're using a lot of the lats and the mid-back muscles. So we want to make sure that we're not only building strength in these movements, but we don't want to be strong and tight and restricted. We want to reinforce full range movement. So a little bit of mobility work for the lats. Again, you can just kind of find a bar, or you can use whatever you have access to. You can use a TRX if you have one. You can use resistance bands if you hook them up into a doorway. And so this is just a basic lat stretch where we're hinging forward. We're dropping chest down and trying to feel a stretch coming right through here. We're not trying to go hard on this, just a stretch where it's about a 3 to a 4 out of 10. That's all. So just a good stretch, and holding that for about 1 minute. And you can kind of angle yourself a little side to side. So if I turn to my right, I will feel my left lat stretch a little more. And if I turn to my left, I'll feel the right. I can bias that right side a little bit more. Just kind of feel it out. Whatever feels good for you and you feel like you need, that's where to go with this. So when you're doing mobility work, we want to make sure that it's not a time where you're just kind of mindlessly going through a stretch and mentally checking out. You always want to have a movement mastery mindset, meaning that you want to stay mentally checked into what you're doing and focus on moving with intention, even if we're just doing mobility work. So when I'm working on this, I'm doing like a single arm version of this stretch. And so when I'm going through this, my mind is on what I'm doing through here. So how am I stacking my body and lining up and making sure that I'm putting a little bit, very light tension through my lat. So I'm just giving a little bit of activation in there. Remember, strength at length is what we're looking at. So it's activating that. It's allowing the muscle to stretch. I'm not trying to tighten it to where I can't mobilize it, but I'm not trying to just go real loose, and I'm just mindlessly going through, not really having a benefit here or cranking my shoulder around. So a little bit of tension, mind into the movement, move with intention, and then just stay checked in. For this exercise, we're going to use a one-arm dumbbell dead stop row. So this one, Just again, working on a single arm pull pattern. We're gonna load it up a little bit. We're gonna keep the repetitions around 10 in a set. So main things with this one is making sure that we set the movement up properly, and then we brace properly and we sequence this properly. So got something, either a bench. I'm gonna use the dumbbell rack to brace myself on. So if I'm pulling with the right arm, I'm gonna have my right leg back. And so I've got arm fixed up on here, making sure my hips are square to the rack. I don't wanna have open hips here or my back foot trailing out. I'm gonna use more of a kickstand kind of position. So instead of being flat on my back foot, I'm up on the ball of my foot. And so from there, I'm gonna put this weight, again, same angle that you press from. If your press angle, like mine was a 45-degree angle, I'm gonna pull from the same angle. So I'm gonna position the dumbbell where I need that to be. And then from a dead stop, so I got 12 in that set. It's actually 2 more than I did the last time. So I'm gonna give myself a little bit of rest here, 15, 20 seconds or so, and I'm gonna repeat it on the other side. Okay, for this exercise, we are gonna do a 1-arm dumbbell incline press. So this is going to allow us to lobe the shoulder a bit in a push pattern. So we're not just wanting to only be able to pull, but we wanna balance it with some pushing as well, even out the strength in there. We're gonna use 1 dumbbell, so 1 hand. What this is going to do is it allows us to incorporate movement of the shoulder and strengthen the shoulder unilaterally, so one side and the other, whereas if you just use a bar, one side can take over for the other and use more force because you have normally one stronger side. The second thing is that we're not going to be able to overload it because the stability requirements are the limiting factor, not strength. So we're not going to be as strong in this because with one side loaded, it means that we have to have a lot more core stabilization and total body tension to keep us balanced and stable on this bench. That practice of bracing total body tension is what helps to stabilize and protect against pain and injuries as well. You want your body to be nice and stable while your shoulder's moving because it gives your shoulder a stable platform and a foundation to push from. So that's what we're gonna do on this one. We're gonna keep the reps somewhere in the 12 to 15 range. And before you do this, you wanna assess what the best pressing angle is for you. So we're gonna test 3 different movement patterns. First one is you're gonna go from arm out in front, palm facing down, and pulling right about here at like a 90-degree angle, and you're just feeling for where you first feel the tension. Doesn't mean that it feels tight. When I pull my arm back, I'm noticing, where do I first start to feel tension? So right about there for me is where I get it. Now I'm gonna assess this way. My palm is facing in, and I'm just gonna pull straight back. And again, feel for the first line of tension, which happens right around here. So I can move a little further from this position versus this position. Now I'm gonna test right in the middle, 45 degree. Palms at an angle, and I'm gonna pull 45 degree, and when I go through there, now I got this kind of movement. So 45 degree angle for me, I know that I move better at a 45 degree angle. It feels good, I don't have any pinching, irritation, or pain, so that's the angle I'm gonna use when I push. It's important to assess right side and also left side because there could be subtle differences side to side, all right? So assess that and then use that angle to do your press. Important thing about how hard to push, again, pain is always the guide. If you get a twinge of something or something doesn't feel right, do not push through. Do not grind your joints and try and push through pain or discomfort. That's a sign that something is off. You have to adjust something, okay? Whether it's the position that you're moving in, whether it's muscle recruitment, total body tension and bracing, or the weight that you're using, or sometimes even the exercise, depending. So how hard to push? On this exercise, do not go to all-out failure. You want to maintain good technique the whole way through. I look at it as somewhere between maybe 2 to 3 good reps left is a good place to stop. It's enough to where you're working hard enough where you could still build strength and muscle in that range without putting too much stress on the shoulder. The more advanced you get and the more accustomed you get to training and to pushing and getting to know your body, and the better your recovery is, you can start pushing closer to where you have like 1 to 2 reps left. So that's about where I stop, where I've got about 1, maybe 2 reps left in the tank. And so now we're gonna finish things off with a little bit of kind of prehab work. This is just directly to target the posterior deltoids a lot with some external shoulder rotation. So basically just keeping things in the back side of the body to help balance out everything that happens in the front, where we tend to sit in positions where we're rounded forward a lot, we're sitting at desks, we're driving a lot. Just our everyday life, you know, we carry things. Everything is in front of us. So we're trying to balance things out by opening things up, pulling and getting the shoulder to rotate back. So this is more, think of keeping the shoulder healthy rather than trying to build strength. So I'm gonna do a resistance band. You can use a cable stack machine with this. We're using a light load, very light loads here. And the goal is to do as many reps as you can do. Remember, movement mindset mastery, move with intention. We don't want to just be pulling and doing sloppy things and not paying attention, because we're trying to get all kinds of reps in. It's not a competition or a power competition or a race. We want to treat it like we're trying to maintain really good quality of movement for a longer duration of time. That's endurance, muscular endurance. So that's what we're trying to do. We're going to go for a 1-minute time limit, as many reps as you can get, and that's where we're at. I don't know if that was exactly a minute, but what I started to notice was that toward the tail end, I don't know if you catch it on the camera, my form started going to shit. So I actually felt a little pinch on my shoulder on a couple of those reps because of the fatigue that I was having. I could feel my shoulder was getting pulled out of position a little bit. I was pulling from a little bit of a different angle. I was having trouble stabilizing my shoulder while I was moving through that. So, you know, at that point, I've gotten more reps before. I think I just did 33. I think I've got 41 last time, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't want to sacrifice the quality of my movement for more repetitions. So I definitely could have done more than 33 on that. That side felt a ton better, easier. The movement felt more smooth. And that's typically how it goes. My right shoulder tends to be a little more tight and restricted than my left. My left happens to be a bit weaker, just in terms of stability though. So kind of a trade-off with that. I have more strength, you know, typically on one side, but I don't have as much mobility. I got more mobility on this side, but not as much strength. So I'm gonna keep the reps even so I don't, you know, develop imbalances where I do like 10 more reps on this side and then it just overdevelops what I can do on the left versus what I can do on the right. So that sums up what we did here. So hopefully you got to try this and do these movements along with the video. You were able to pause and kind of do a set and see how it feels for you. So I'm curious to know, how did this feel for you? What did you notice during any of the exercises that were done? If there's any questions that you have about anything, feel free to type them in the comments below and let me know how this worked for you. If this is something that you would like to see more of, this kind of a series where I go more in depth about how I program workouts and exercises around pain and mobility type restrictions and issues, then just let me know in the comments below. If you did like this video and you got something from it, do me a favor and click the like button. That helps the algorithm to make sure that this gets out to more people who need this kind of information. And if you want more of this kind of content, then just make sure that you hit subscribe down below as well. So I want to say thanks for watching, and I will catch you next time.